I was a printmaker for a long time, pretty successful, and I wanted to do things more personally because selling at that volume didn't seem as personal as I wanted. And I started to change things up, but you can't really shrink a business. I moved into a smaller studio and I don't know, started going in different directions. Um, I had a part time job after I changed studios, moved across the country. Because I never meet anybody working alone in the studio. And after I got fired from that job, which I was at for a very, very long time, for something totally crazy, I started making pottery. The novel is called Digitata. Chapter 1, Wednesday, 8 a.m., Zone 2. The room was so bright white I could see my reflection on her corneas, a dark face and her amber-colored irises. She handed me a blank bid card and leaned in close, maintaining hard eye contact. I could tell she was pissed by the tension in her hand when I took the card with two left fingers and clicked it into the reader on my right forearm. I held her gaze. I'd been certain she'd called me up to level 345 to fire me. So far she hadn't. Morgan was too dry for me to figure out most of the time, aside from the fact that she never wanted me here. But today, annoyance was oozing out of her pores. Jodex, it pains me to give this to you. This water. Real, I'm told. Morgan said, her eyes moving from mine to the big card. She broke the staring contest, so I finally glanced to my readout. Only one word appeared. It was Helene. I didn't need to know anything else, except for why. I knew this dealer didn't usually deal in water. But if Boss S is handing it to me, there must be a reason, or she'd never have done so. Morgan hadn't shown any interest in harboring an environment where I could succeed at my work. I always generated my own leads, never with any help from acquisitions. True, none of my connections had brought in any valuable samples, though I had the skills to know if it was real should I ever find any. I knew I did. I looked back up to her eyes. Morgan says, "The dealer requested you." I felt pride start to puff up my posture, and I had to resist letting it show, but I was never any good at hiding it. Then I felt it coming. "Does she know you as a diviner, or is she a fan?" Her eyes narrowed. "Neither," I said, wishing I'd cut her off before that last part. I'd felt it before she said it. I let my shoulders open up, and I took a taller stance. I'm a collector. She's a seller. I bought an artifact from her about a year ago. Though the truth was, Helene was also a fan. Morgan folded her arms and took a half step back. As always, she was in gray and white, her silver hair pulled back neatly at the neck. She seemed to study me with a mildly different air. Outside the window behind her, the sky climbers glinted in the sunlight. Flight pods and air cycles streamed around and through the massive buildings, while vertical trams wormed up and down the skyline, lit up and filled with people. Up this high, you can see miles of the new horizon, alight by the fireflies of urban airspace. It felt minimizing. I adjusted my focus to see myself in the massive window. Dark skin, dark hair, freshly self-cut. 18 hours of beard with another 18 to go until the next shave. Hard cheekbones. My preference for attachable walkabouts showed in the silhouette of my suit's reflection. I had on a mini satellite receiver on the right shoulder, hollow projector on the left, long range and macro cameras on the breast, full size arm keypad with wrist readout, and several microphones running top to bottom. Any sounds from outside were muffled to a mere backdrop of ambient noise. I blinked back to Morgan. "I hope this isn't a ploy by her to get your attention." Morgan tilted her head forward a bit to make her point. "You did manage to identify the elements in the last test batch from the mixologist, so I'm allowing it. I hope you weren't cheating." That comment made me flare in the face. I was good at my work. I said she could have contacted me directly, hoping Morgan wouldn't give in to the embarrassment. The lines on her face deepened. It was a dig. I needed to check myself. She didn't contact us, Jodex. We contacted her, she said, barely opening her mouth. Felt even better now. She requested me. It was hard to hide the excitement in my chest. I had to stand up straight to take in a full breath. I could see over her head. I felt pleasantly tall, one of my imperfect flaws. Morgan turned away, shaking her head ever so slightly. You're not even my 10th choice. It probably hadn't been an incoming request. Baobab Water was seeking something in particular, and they found out Helene had it. It must be something they really want, and they had to give the tasting away to me. Because the dealer might have a crush on me. I'm an imperfect, with no seniority. Morgan must have really been in pain. She'd unwillingly allowed my promotion to diviner. It had initially come by way of a favor from higher up, but I had wanted the job badly, and I passed the taste testing with ease. DNA from an ancestor chef, known for knife work in his hands, which is why my family had chosen to keep it in our strand. It had also come with his sense of taste and smell. Morgan never wore any fragrance, 1 point for her. I tried to focus and bring myself down a level. I'm prone to ruining things. When? I asked while I got control of my attitude. Now. Transport is waiting upstairs. Nobody is to know. Bring it directly back to the lab. And if it's real, get all of it. Again she held out her hand. This time she had a small round pip in her palm. I held my words back, took it carefully, and snapped it onto my jacket collar. I could get in anywhere now. Well, almost anywhere, and I could afford to buy anything. Who knew how long she would let me wear it? Again she tilted her head and almost cracked a smile. Why you try to hide your emotions, Jodex, I'll never understand. Let me be clear. You are presenting Baobab in public now. Be sure to hold up our image. Just above Morgan's office sits Baobab's private VP transport deck. In public now was all I kept hearing in my head. What if this water is the real thing? I was on the verge of actually feeling like a diviner. It could be the greatest discovery since the last original water was found, 72 years ago. If it is, and I'm the one to bring it in, I'll be in the public eye for sure. Nobody can keep that secret away from the press hounds for long, no matter how hard they try. But try I would. The public is the last thing this water snob wants to face. The others would surely welcome it. A hard wind blew against my body as the armored pod hovered over. I leaned into the pressure with stiff legs until the plinth extended, and I hulk walked towards it until the wind died. Inside the pod, the pilot wore a serious stun suit, Inside the pod, the pilot wore a serious stun suit. All but his face was covered with defensive high-security sensor hairs. He wasn't otherwise armed from what I could see. The flight pod was armed, however, and covered with a light-refracting paint-on solar coating to camouflage it from the naked eye and most radar sweeps. The flight pod was armed, however, and covered with a light-refracting paint-on solar coating to camouflage it from naked eye and most radar sweeps. I had never even been up here before, much less whisked away in the most secure transport on offer today. This water had to be good. Maybe it would change my life for the better somehow. As the hatch closed, I heard the echo of the zone clock bonging up the skyscraper chasm from far below. It was 9 a.m. for people in Zone 2, which accounts for the commuter mayhem going on a half-mile up from original horizon. I grew up Zone 1, the default diurnal zone for Capital City, and I changed zones at times, yet always came back to it. For me, it was exactly noon.